After World War II, Germany was divided into four occupation zones controlled by the US, UK, France, and the Soviet Union.
Berlin, located deep within Soviet-controlled East Germany, was also divided into East and West, with the city symbolizing the broader geopolitical divide.
The Soviet Union established East Berlin as the capital of the German Democratic Republic for years, enforcing strict control over the region.
In 1961, the East German government built the Berlin Wall to stop East Germans from fleeing to
the West, splitting families and communities.
The Berlin Wall was erected overnight, effectively isolating West Berlin, a beacon of democracy, from communist-controlled East Germany. The wall became the symbol of the Cold War, preventing East Germans from escaping to the West and creating a deeply divided city.
The Berlin Wall was the physical manifestation of the Iron Curtain, which divided Europe into two blocks, the capitalist West and the communist East.
Life in East Berlin was tightly controlled by the GDR, with limited freedoms and strict surveillance, causing widespread discontent.
Meanwhile, West Berlin, a beacon of capitalist prosperity, stood in stark contrast to its East German counterpart.
In 1989, protests broke out across Eastern Europe, fueled by Gorbachev's policies of openness.
In May 1989, Hungary opened its border with Austria, allowing East Germans to escape to the west.
Thousands of East Germans crossed into Hungary, igniting a mass exodus that would soon spread across Eastern Europe.
Solidarity and protests in Czech and East Germany added to the pressure for change, signaling the weakening.
Sunday demonstrations in Leipzig gained momentum in late 1989, with citizens demanding not just reform but the end of the Berlin Wall.
By the fall of 1989, protests calling for the removal of the wall and more freedom spread across East Germany.
For the first time in 28 years, East Germans were able to cross into West Berlin, signaling the symbolic end of the Berlin Wall.
Celebrations erupted on both sides of the wall as people from East and West Berlin reunited, tearing down the physical symbol of division.
Berliners began to chip away at the wall, literally dismantling it with hammers and chisels, as the symbolic wall of the Cold War crumbled.
The fall of the wall became a symbol of hope and unity.
The news of the Berlin Wall's fall spread across the world, leading to widespread celebrations and an outpouring of support for the people of Germany.
For many, the fall of the wall meant a long-awaited reunion with loved ones who had been separated by the wall for decades.
Of the primate. In the aftermath of the wall's fall, East German leader Erich Honecker was overthrown, marking the collapse of the
Berliners and Germans across the country celebrated reunification, welcoming the opportunity to build a new future together.
On October 3, 1990, Germany was officially reunified, ending nearly 40 years of division.
The raising of the German flag at Brandenburg Gate symbolized the end of the Cold War division and the restoration of a united Germany.
The reunification of families, long separated by the wall, became one of the most poignant moments of Germany's reunification.
Young Germans, who had grown up in separate worlds, found common ground and celebrated the opportunity to build a shared future.
Germany's reunification marked the beginning of a new era in Europe, with the Cold War officially coming to an end.
Reunified Germany faced the challenge of integrating the economies of the East and West, leading to significant social and economic changes.
The Berlin Wall's fall was a key moment in the larger context of the Cold War, marking the end of the ideological division that had split Europe for decades. The joy on the faces of Berliners reflected the euphoria that spread across Germany and the rest of Europe as the wall came down. By 1990, Soviet forces withdrew from Eastern Europe, signaling the collapse of Soviet influence and the end of the Warsaw Pact.
The rise of democratic movements throughout Eastern Europe was a direct result of the fall of the Berlin Wall, leading to the collapse of communism in the region.
The fall of the Berlin Wall also led to a series of agreements between Eastern and Western Europe, aimed at fostering.
Germany's reunification in 1990 marked the beginning of a new chapter for Europe, with the country now a key player.
In 1990, East Germany held its first free elections, marking the transition to democracy for the former communist state.
The economic integration of East Germany into the West was a massive challenge, but it spurred significant development and modernization across the country.
The Soviet Union's withdrawal from Eastern Europe marked the end of the Warsaw Pact and the beginning of a new era of Western influence in the region.
The protests in East Germany throughout 1989 became increasingly focused on demands for political freedoms, culminating in the collapse of the regime. The physical destruction of the wall became a global symbol of freedom, and it sparked celebrations around the world.
Following the fall of the wall, NATO expanded its influence into former Soviet spheres, further cementing the shift towards a Western-oriented Europe.
U.S. President Ronald Reagan and Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev worked together to reduce Cold War tensions and chart a path toward a new global order. The celebration in Berlin was a moment of triumph, marking the end of the Cold War and the beginning of a united Germany. The Brandenburg Gate became a symbol of unity as the Berlin Wall was torn down, representing the triumph of freedom over division.
In the days following the wall's fall, jubilant crowds gathered to physically dismantle the wall, symbolizing the dismantling of the oppressive regime.
The fall of the Berlin Wall was broadcast worldwide, a moment of global significance that symbolized the end of an era of division.
East Germany held its first free elections in 1990, signaling the end of communist rule and the start of a democratic process.
Germany's reunification in 1990 was the culmination of decades of division, as East and West Germany came together to form a single nation. Western leaders worked together to create a new European order, with NATO playing a key role in ensuring security and stability.
The fall of the Berlin Wall set off a chain reaction of political change, as communist regimes across Eastern Europe crumbled.
If we optimize this segment, we could increase efficiency by 10%.
I agree, but we should cross-reference it with the Q3 projections first.
The younger generation in Germany has no memory of the wall, but they continue to live in the legacy of the freedom it brought. Zigrais. In the aftermath of the Cold War, many Eastern European countries joined the European Union, reinforcing. Following the Cold War, NATO expanded eastward, with many former Soviet satellite states joining the alliance.
Every year, the fall of the Berlin Wall is commemorated as a day of reflection and celebration of freedom, democracy, and unity. The reunification of families separated by the wall was one of the most emotional aspects of the Berlin Wall's fall.
The fall of the Berlin Wall paved the way for the reunification. Borders that had been closed for decades were finally opened, allowing the free movement of people, goods, and ideas throughout Europe.
Today, the legacy of the Berlin Wall continues to shape European politics, with young people reflecting on its importance in maintaining European unity.
The Brandenburg Gate, once a symbol of division, now stands as a beacon of unity.